Brought to you by Knights of Awakening. This is the Labyrinth. Today's episode is called Focus, Will, and Density, and I'm going to mess that word up 1,000 times and call it Destiny before this video is over, I'm sure. And it's going to be hitting on the concepts of raw energy manipulation, as well as how they relate to other things in mysticism in general. So with that, before we start, as always, I want to thank everyone for joining us. You are what makes these shows possible. Without your feedback, your input, I wouldn't be doing a show. So if you like what you see, remember to like, share, comment, subscribe, let us know. Feedback is important to us. And again, we thank you for taking your time out of your day to watch our shows. It means something to us. With that, let's hit on the first of these terms. Focus. Focus is the clarity of mind and thought. And what this means is when you're holding an intent or an image in your mind while doing any kind of mystical work, focus is the clarity. So it's very much like the focus of a camera lens in that respect. How clear can you keep your intent? How clear can you keep your thoughts? And moreover, with the visualization aspect, can you keep the image quality clear in your own mind? This starts to transition somewhat into will, which is moreover the ability to override other functions. Your mind is always moving at 1,000 miles an hour, and even if you practice Zazen all day long, as soon as you go into ritual, whatever reason you went into ritual for, you're going to find that is going to become part of what's, enveloping you. And willpower is the ability to override existing input and stimuli. Willpower in the martial arts often is the ability to override pain, and in mysticism it can be that as well. It's the ability in mysticism to override that part of your mind that wants to go somewhere else, but it's also that need to stop at a certain point. Exhaustion and overload and things like that are part of what willpower overcomes, and will overrides the signal that's being sent that says this is enough, because the problem is that signal is a false signal as a rule. Generally speaking, until you've achieved what you wanted to, it's not enough. So will is that power to override the rest of the system that you are. And it's very much a core part of this, just as focus is. Focus is clarity of thought. Will is the ability to enforce that clarity over other functions. This becomes incredibly important in long-term rituals, but it's also important in directed energy work, because you will try to go and do other things while you're doing your energy work. You'll try to hold other images. Other thoughts will come into play. Willpower is the ability to push that aside, where focus is the ability to maintain the clarity in the first place. And they both are intertwined. You could say will and focus are almost the same thing. There are subtle differences. I've met people that can achieve pinpoint focus, clarity of thought and mind, for about 30 seconds, and that's how they do their magic. And they have no willpower other than that. They've learned to make a 30-second boom, and then that's how they perform magic, and they do very well with it. Will is the ability to override those other functions that are imposing on. I've met people that have almost no focus. They can't hold the single image for more than a second, but they can will. They have the ability to continually keep their mind going back to what is important within the working, and in that, over time, they achieve the equivalent of that 30 seconds of clarity. I've met people that have achieved both, and that's where you start getting into the real power. Now, within this also, I got a little bit of an itch there, right? Within this is density, and this is where we get into energy. So we should hit on energy and concepts like ki. Ki, as expressed in Qigong and Tai Chi, and all of the various other art forms that utilize it, as well as raw energy workers, it has to do with a physically harnessed energy, usually through breath or focus internally. It is an energy that can manifest, and it can manifest in the moment, instead of over a prolonged period of time, as spell work often does without this concept. And it's become such a core component, some concept of energy, be it chakras or key work or energy body fields, have become such a core component of mysticism that it is now found in nearly every book and working. In fact, almost all the books start out with the exercise. Imagine a bright white, golden, blue, orange, green, purple, indigo, technicolor light above your head coming down into you, or visualize yourself drawing in the power of the universe as you breathe in. They're all very similar exercises. They all achieve basically the same things, and that is something that we cannot really define as to why it works the way it does. Not that we can define why any magic works the way it does. But within a Western paradigm, it tends to sit there off in the corner by itself, and we recognize that it works and that it's necessary because one who has increased their level of energy has increased their ability to manifest. So we found things like yoga, qigong, tai chi, martial arts practices, all of it, chakra alignment and chakra meditations, grounding, kundalini. All of this we found in modern mysticism is very valuable. It's very much a part of what we do. And no one wants to sit down and say, well, this is the way it works, because then they feel like they're betraying Western mysticism. But don't feel bad. Eastern mysticism doesn't use their ki that much anyway for these things. They tend to use as much ritual and ceremony as we do. You could say that this gusto, this life force, this whatever you want to call it, exists in every system and every paradigm. Just some systems work with learning to harness it. So therefore, it doesn't really matter if you're not a natural at it, whereas systems of the past, you were either a shaman or you were not. So if you're not very good with energy, don't feel bad. You can learn and grow and get stronger. And if you are very good, don't feel too good about yourself, because everyone else is going to catch up eventually. Hey, I'm a bit of a natural with it myself, and I'm telling you that it doesn't really matter if you are a natural. What matters is the hard work and the dedication. That said, density. Energy is great, but a lot of people tend to flare their energy about. They raise massive amounts of power, but they have no density to it, no weight, no presence. And this is where I believe compression of energy is the next most important part. And in martial arts systems, that compression occurs as you learn to use it. Either you compress to like water in Tai Chi, or you compress to like steel in Qigong, or various other methodologies. And in that, the energy becomes denser. But the Western mystic tends to overlook that. And that's why we're here today, is to look at that a bit more and explain why it's necessary to compress and harden energy in working, as well as to store energy in a more compressed form. Let's take your energy body, and we'll use my image on the screen here, so pardon me, Let's say you have your core energy, like your chakras and things like that. And then outside of that, you've got your base energy body, and then you have your aura. Most people, as they're storing energy, they fill up their core pretty good. They don't do any condensation. So if this is your core, that's it. Let's see if I can, there we go. I am terrible with the camera today, aren't I? This is your core energy. This is where it's sitting. And most people leave it like that. If it was this much and they can fill it up to this, then they stop. And that is just, it's not a bad thing, but it's not, we'll get into why there's a better method. Then their energy body gets to about this point. And again, they fill it up as much as they can. Maybe it was like this, and then they fill it up to this. And that's great, and that's a fantastic practice, especially if you're refilling daily. And then their aura, we'll say, comes out to like this. And this is where most mystics, they bring their aura out all the way to where it expands to the heavens. And that's a lot of energy that has no density, so it has very little impact. And when it's directed, it takes a long time to direct it towards a goal. Energy compression is about compressing this energy, and you can find this in methodologies like Tumo. And Tumo breathing is very good for this, as well as methods based around it. This energy compression concept is about taking that energy in and then compressing it at those core centers, and then compressing it in the body so the body becomes denser and denser. So it may fill up this area, but it's as if though it filled up that area. And what this does is this gives you a heavy energy that you're drawing from, and therefore a more physical impact when manifesting. People say, what's this have to do with manifestation? You're utilizing this energy all the time. Even when you're calling upon other powers, this energy is getting utilized, either to make the link, to make the communication, to act as a form of offering, because let's face it, your candles don't mean that much. You're giving up something to make the offering, and it's not a candle. It's not incense. If all you're giving up when you give up the incense and the candles are candles and incense, you're not giving up some essence of reverence and some energy of yourself, then don't do the offerings. It's pointless. You're not giving them anything they want. You're not even really giving them attention. If you go to Odin and you're like, yeah, Odin, here's your candle, fuck you. He's gonna be like, yeah, okay, Charles, here's your situation just like you left it, fuck you. That's how it works, okay? So even in offering-based systems, ritual magic uses a lot of offerings, or even in controlling-based systems where you call down a higher power. How are you calling down that power exactly? Probably through focus, will, and energy, whether or not you realize that your energy is moving. It's why you feel tired at the end of a ritual. So this density gives you more to work with. It gives you more raw power available. It also means your power goes further. To understand what I mean by your power goes further, you're going to draw on that energy somewhat in its compressed form. It's not like a zip file on a computer where it's compressed and then you expand it. It's not like compressed air where it, after you release it. This is energy that's going to remain in its compressed form. So you're going to use less of it. It's going to use less out of your system, and it's going to do more, but it's going to do more because it's more focused already. It's pre-focusing the energy for the work. This is where we're going to get into a nice comparison that I was sitting on with someone that I told him I would explain better. And it's the concept of PSI. And everyone's, oh boy, he's getting into psionics. No, I'm not. Actually, everything is psionics within magic, and everything in magic is psionics. And if you've been watching the Labyrinth for a while, you already know I hold that view. No, I'm getting into pounds per square inch. What does that have to do with anything? Pounds per square inch is a good way of looking at energy. If you have 1,000 pounds of energy, no, not 1,000. We'll go with 1,000 pounds of energy. Over 1,000 inches, you have 1 pound per inch. That's not that much when you look at it like that. 1,000 pounds is a lot of weight, but 1 pound is not. If you have 50 pounds, using that as a measure of energy for this, over 1 inch, then you have 50 pounds per inch. So it achieves more. So if you're pushing an object with 1,000 pounds over an area of 1,000 inches, and the surface area of the object is only a foot, 12 inches, you're not achieving very much. But if you are pushing out with, say, 1,000 pounds over 12 inches to push on this car, then that is going to be 100 and some, or just under 100 pounds per inch pressure in one spot. That is going to achieve something. That's 1,000 pounds per foot of pressure. That's going to get more done. And understanding the concept of PSI, pounds per square inch, is a good way of looking at energy work. If your energy is loose and uncontrolled, you've not applied that focus. You've not applied the will to it. You're just raising energy, but you haven't really focused the energy. Or you're applying focus and will, but you have no energy there. We'll get into that in a second too. Then you won't achieve. And that's where we move into. If you have massive amounts of energy, but you're not directing it, it's not doing anything. If it's not compressed, it's not achieving. Moreover, if you have this focus and this will, okay, we went with 1,000 pounds. That's a nice big number, okay? So let's go with 10 pounds. Say you have 10 pounds of raw energy, and you're putting it over the area of 1 inch. That's 10 per square inch. That's not bad. But if you're trying to move something that is 3 or 4 feet across, or weighs hundreds of pounds, it's still not going to be enough to make a difference. You can compress it. You can compress it down to an inch. You can compress it down to a 1/12 of an inch. You can compress it down to the head of a pin, and it still won't be that impressive in terms of moving something. You're more likely to destroy what you're aiming at than you are to move it. This analogy may seem a little far-fetched, but what I'm really getting at is that there's a balance between energy density and energy amount that has to be achieved to achieve goals. And you need to look at that with your internal arts and your internal practices. The external practices are the ones that get all the glory and mysticism. I found this new ritual. I did this new thing. I found a new way to put runes on a candle. The internal arts get less glory and have more impact. And I hope that this episode had you look at those internal arts a little bit and think about how you're utilizing and visualizing your energy, how you're storing it when you do your meditations, and how you work with it. And maybe it did. Maybe this episode gave you what you're looking for, and maybe it didn't. But I'm hopeful you took something out of it, because it's a really neat concept, and it's very much a core of what I do. When people ask, how are you so powerful? I'm not all that powerful, but I can definitely apply power where I need to when I need to. So that's it. That's focus, will, and density. I want to thank you all for joining us. Shorter episode than the past few, and I prefer it that way. I don't think anyone needs 30, 40, and 50-minute episodes, that's for sure. This is a really great topic. If you liked it, like, share, and subscribe. Leave comments. Comments actually make my day. I don't reply a lot because I do everything from my account, not from the KOA account once I log out of the KOA account. So I don't often see the comments right away, and I don't often know what to say. I mean, I feel kind of bad if I get them like, thank you for the comment. But I do thank you for the comment. I just don't really know how to put it into words. This is where we get into my social awkwardness. But I am seeing the comments, and they do make my day, and they give me a reason to do videos like this where we get into the roots of what mysticism is. So, again, thank you very much. And as always, awaken the night within.